For the same reason.
Hey, Chris, I'm Daryl. How are we going to go as far as when I'm calling for a motion from the floor, and I want to perhaps move the adoption of the agenda. So we're going to have somebody make the motion or move the motion, second it. I'm just worried about understanding the names. Who's saying that?
Okay.
So I'm not sure. Is that something where my hearing up there is compromised?
Okay.
If you can hear the names,
If we hear him.
let me know.
Okay.
29 years with Canadian Church of God Ministries. Previous to that, he was in Eastern Canada, but I don't know the number.
29.
years.
Great. Thank you. Mhm.
But I'm not even sure that's particularly accurate because if he was in Ontario, went back to Ontario, and came out here. But
Look at that. Eh?
under our recent banner, 29 years.
Over.
Since
Okay.
he first started. As
Is that even legal? I mean, that's a lot of years.
PGC 78 years. Well,
Yeah, isn't that something, eh?
I just about started crying. I'm like,
Yeah.
I don't think I'm going to get to 78. And he
Yeah.
served for 78
Yeah, isn't that
years,
amazing?
right?
We hear it all shout it out to you.
Yeah, you know what? It's kind of nice to say it was moved by, and I don't think we have to say the name, but it would be to say that
Okay.
Which name?
whoever moves it and whoever seconds it. So if you hear it, let me know again. I guess I'm wondering, I'm not always be able to pick the names up from a crowd.
I will try my best to just be saying them loudly. I
Okay.
think maybe I won't put headphones on. I'll just.
Okay.
I won't. Yeah.
All right.
Carol, does it make any difference if are handed out 4 to a person at one time or 1 at a time? How do you? I know in the past, when we've only had paper ballots, we just did them 1 at a time. But this is a little different because our online people are getting the questions in a group.
Yeah.
And we want this experience to be similar, right? So should they be handing out a pack of 4 to each?
I think that'd make it a little quicker, eh?
Yeah.
If they had it all organized and just,
I should
if
have
they got it. That's okay, we got,
related them as far as printing them, but
that's okay. I guess we could now.
I mean, as far as it goes, I can do that right now.
yeah, I might have some extra help for that.
Yeah.
Sure, I think that'd make it just much smoother if we did that.
Thank you.
Okay. I believe John Campbell is the chair of the convention committee. Is that correct? Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So thank you. Just want to be sure that.
Would you mind if I just made a quick
Yeah, let's do that. Yeah.
Good evening, everyone. Hey, if you're here this evening and you're out in the lobby, we just want to invite you to come on in. We want to begin our meeting in 1 or 2 minutes here. And as you're coming in and finding your seat, we would invite you to find something here in the middle as well. I just want to, on behalf of Ken and Julie Wiebe, make a quick announcement. Again, as you're finding your seats, if you would like to give your church members some opportunities to support some missions projects or sponsor a child in Uganda, Congo, or Sudan, please see Ken and Julie Wiebe at the Faraha Africa Relief Association display. There are brochures there that you can pick up, and sponsor applications are available there as well. So just wanted to make you aware of that opportunity. So we're just still going to wait for 1 or 2 more people to come on in, and then we're going to start our meeting. So just give us 1 minute, and then we're going to get going here. Thank you.
Test, 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 test. We need our microphone. I'm not on. We need our microphone, man. Where is he? Oh, okay. Okay. Test, test, test. Sounding good? Come on in. Come on in. Can we close the door there and come on in, please? Can you hear me at the back? Thank you. Thanks for doing that. We're just confirming quorum. Good evening, everyone. My name is Daryl Schultz. I'll be your moderator for this evening. I'd like to call this meeting to order. I'd like to extend a warm welcome to all the delegates that are here and the observers and our special guests, both in person and online. 2 years ago, we held our annual general meeting in the chapel just across the way here. Last year, we held it entirely online. This year, we're doing a hybrid, in person and online. So with that comes some special challenges. What are the rules? How should we organize that? And the good news is that the 12th edition of Robert's Rules of Order gives us some guidance. Published in September of 2020, it gives us an idea of there are additional rules that we can follow that act as a guide for conducting electronic meetings. So how timely. These additional rules note that voting members who are not present in person have the right to participate in electronic meetings, which is, we're really using that as a guide, and I think that'll be very helpful for this evening as well. If you're not able to make it, you can participate, be a part of it. George Lutzer, the Executive Director of the Canadian Church of God Ministries, will talk to us in a few minutes about what are the practical applications of these additional rules. What have we done to make it possible for participation online and in person? So with Robert's Rules and additional rules of Robert's Rules, and coming through 2 years of rules about rules, let's be sure about we know who rules. More than all that, we want to say we want to function as a body that works with and is open to the leading of the Holy Spirit. More than all that. Would you pray with me? Let's talk with our Heavenly Father. Heavenly Father, we come to you in Jesus' name and thank you for making that possible. You are sovereign. With you, all things are possible. We need your help. Now and going forward from here, we need your help. Hear our prayers. Let your ears be attentive to our cries for your help. Your laws are written in our hearts and we choose to obey. And so we ask again, unashamedly, for your wisdom, your insight, your understanding. Help us to hear your voice and to follow you. Come, Holy Spirit, come. I'll call on George Lucer, again, the Executive Director, to set the stage for this meeting.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. Just a few points to help navigate this meeting more smoothly. First of all, thank you all so much for being here, for participating with us. Your continued investment in Canadian Church of God Ministries, your support is greatly, greatly appreciated. Some guidelines on how to make this meeting a success. First of all, as our moderator, Dr. Daryl Schultz, has indicated, this is a hybrid meeting. We're hoping to not have technical challenges, but we do invite that you be understanding, patient, and gracious. Shannon is still continuing to get organized here, but if you need tech support, you can email Shannon at the address that is there. If you're online, we invite you to keep your microphone muted. We probably don't want to hear what you're saying to your family in the background. If possible, we invite you to wear earbuds or a headset. You will have opportunity when called upon, and there's some instructions on the screen before you in terms of how to do that. And above all things, we just invite you to give your attention and your time to our moderator and any of the presenters. For those of you who are online, we just want to ask that you raise your hand, your physical hand, when we are asking for motions not covered by a ballot. You have all who are online received an email from Shannon with regard to the Simply Voting login information. It's been provided to you by email. And when we vote on our quorum motion, our board of directors members, our moderator for next year, our alternate moderator, and our budget, you can log into Simply Voting and you can cast your ballot at that point. In terms of those of you who are here in this room, all discussion in the auditorium takes place through the provided floor microphones that are halfway down the aisles. Opening motions for acceptance of the agenda, AGM minutes from 2021, destruction of the ballots and adjournment will be responded to by the showing of your green name tags on your lanyards, which indicate voting delegate at the bottom. And again, if you're making a motion, please say your name and what church you are from so that Chris Pudell, who's taking our minutes tonight, can indicate that in the minutes. For our voting ballots, you will be receiving paper ballots, and they will be used for voting on quorum, board of directors members, our moderator for next year's meeting, our alternate moderator, and our budget as well. I want to introduce to you the team that bears the burden of responsibility for our group here in Western Canada for Canadian Church of God Ministries. And we've got 9 people who have invested a good chunk of time in terms of giving direction and overseeing the work of Canadian Church of God Ministries, and my thanks goes to them. The pictures will be appearing behind me if they're not already there. Reg Hildebrand from Wetaskiwin Church of God, Don Berquist, retired pastor, Chad Brundage, pastor, Paradise Valley Church of God, Alberta, Blake Schroeder, layperson from Bragg Creek Church of God in Alberta, who's in Mexico right now. And Blake, if you're online, welcome. Thanks for coming to us from a warmer place. Rose Perschke, who's our chair. She is coming to us tonight from her home. She's online from Saskatoon, Saskatchewan, attends the Riverbend Church of God there. Mark Kowalko, pastor, Glamorgan Church of God, Calgary. Jeff Peter, pastor of Pleasant Valley Church of God, Vernon. And Cynthia Pelche, pastor at Kinnear Church of God in Castlegar, BC. I'd invite you to give them a round of applause for all of the work that they have invested. The one additional member to that team that we want to give special thanks to, because his term has come to an end, both in terms of Financial Services Board and the Board of Directors, is Randy Rosler. Randy has served our group here in Western Canada very faithfully for 12 years. Randy is a great team member. He's at the back there. So Randy, would you just please stand up? I just want to say thank you. Any of you who have worked in the team setting with Randy know that he's all in and he cares and he gives himself to that stuff. And Randy, thank you. We really appreciate what you've invested the last 12 years. I want to introduce to you the team that I get to work with, and I'm very fortunate to walk alongside of. Some of them are in volunteer positions, some of them are part-time, and some of them are full-time. Tim, you've met him. He's been absolutely wonderful to work with. Was our newest team member. We've got a newer one now. Mark Boffman, who is just a pillar in our team, many years of experience. This is actually going to be Mark's second to last annual general meeting. He gave us notice a year ago that he was going to be retiring in a year from now, and we're already going through the grieving process. And yet Mark is just smiling all the time. So we're not quite sure what to think about all of that. But we love him and we really appreciate him. And we're just more than a little bit concerned about what's going to happen after he goes. So you can be in prayer about that. Mark, thanks. Great work. Mm-hmm. Shannon is our executive administrator. She works tirelessly behind the scenes. Last night we introduced to you our newest team member. She's in the booth tonight with Joel, who is in charge of DVM. It's Maddie Schwartz. Maddie, maybe just wave from the booth again for those who weren't here tonight. Maddie just joined us like, what's today? Wednesday? Tuesday. She joined us on Tuesday. So yesterday was her first day of work. So we're really, 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 really glad that she joined our team. And the assist goes to her father-in-law, who's just over there, Kevin Schwartz. So Kevin, thanks for letting Maddie know that there was an opportunity to join our team. We're really, really grateful for that. We're also very happy to be walking alongside of Ken DeMar. Ken, where are you? Ken is right there. I offer him my job every time I see him because he used to do this for the CMA and he's just brilliant. And we are so fortunate that he's walking with us as a team member on a part-time basis. And we are grateful to be working with you. Thank you, Ken, for joining us. And then we've got two volunteers that we're very, very grateful for. One is John Campbell. And John is the former executive director. And when I grow up, I want to be like him. So it's awesome to continue to work with him. He oversees our credentials division. And John, thank you for all of the work that you continue to invest on our credentials team. We really appreciate you. And Mike Blackmer, he's not here tonight. He's got a very interesting work schedule, work rhythm, and he oversees our missions department, and he volunteers his time as well. So when you see Mike next time around, just give him a big hug and say thanks for all of the work that he does. Joining us online from Ontario, and so they're 2 hours ahead, so we don't want to keep him too long, is Chris Bonus, and he's executive director for the Church of God in Eastern Canada. Chris has written a report. It's inside your report package. You should have read it already. And Chris, welcome. It's really good to have you with us online. And our moderator for tonight, you've already heard him, and that is Daryl Schultz. As you know, Daryl, excuse me, is a recently retired dentist, and he still has his hands in a lot of different things. And I got to poke a little bit of fun at him last year, and I realized I needed to be careful to do that. But for those of you who've not met Daryl yet, I just want to introduce you to him. He's really gracious and kind, compassionate and caring, intelligent and witty, handsome and engaging. And he wanted me to tell you that. So this is our moderator for tonight, Dr. Daryl Schultz. So we'll turn the meeting over to you, Daryl.
Didn't I give you more to say? I thought there was more I told you to say. Oh, sorry. Shannon Boer tells us we've got quorum, so that's good news. For those new here, and I think even been here a while, it might be worth reviewing What does that mean? And we'll be addressing that a little later, but really to take a look at the bylaws of the Canadian Church of God Ministries, they state that required to transact any business at any annual meeting, there shall consist of not less than 50% plus one of a total membership of the corporation. So breaking it down, what does that mean? Well, what that means is the total membership of the corporation is explained earlier in the bylaws when it says it includes ordained ministers and licensed ministers who meet certain requirements. It includes retired ministers, again, who meet certain requirements. It means it includes ministers of ecumenical ministries and lay delegates, each of whom are required to meet certain requirements. That's the background of who makes up registered total membership. Again, Shannon's provided with information that says we've met quorum, so good news. I think we've got some slides that are going to go through and list by province. There they are. We've got the Manitoba. Can we, everyone please welcome all the participants from Manitoba listed there. And by that, I mean, give them a round of applause. Saskatchewan. Can I highlight a few people, mention some new people, some people who may not have heard before? Christian Sturbecker from Urbid Church of God, Drew Weber from East Side, Parker Wall. Welcome. Did we welcome them yet? I think that's a good idea. Welcome. From Alberta, please again, let's welcome the official name change, Holyrood Community Church, formerly the First Church of God. If you get a chance to talk with Pastor Janelle Stone, if you haven't talked to her yet, highly recommended. And Andreas Striefler from Southview, welcome to all of you. And British Columbia, see them before you there. I don't think there's any new ones. Did I miss any new ones? Welcome, everyone. Good to have you here. Thank you. Anybody that comes that distance deserves to have a round of applause. Thank you. Where are we at there on that? The next slide. After those, I think there should be a blank slide here. You know, when talking with my wife, Diane, actually, we were kind of excited to see all the new names there, the new pastors. I mean, it just really is invigorating. And so I got to thinking, how could I help those new pastors? What could we do? How could I do to help them so that all goes well? And I got to thinking that maybe a little more background, maybe a little more formal introduction to someone who's been a significant part of this movement for the last 29 years. And by that, I mean, the person that's chair of the Credentials Committee. Can you take a look? Now that's for those who don't know John, being the chair of the Credentials Committee, if you're a new pastor here, I think it'd be well to understand a little bit about him. This is a picture of 20 years ago. And in this particular picture, he's happy with you. Okay, got that? Watch the eyes, watch the corner of the mouth. The next picture will be somebody, now this is about 15 years ago, and he's not happy with you, okay? Take a close look. Next one. Now, this is if John actually agrees with you. This is the picture about 10 years ago. Yeah. And the next picture, if he doesn't agree with you at all. I mean, if he thinks you're wrong, I mean, dead wrong. I mean, that's what we look like. Did the new pastors get a good look at that? Watch the eyes. No, okay. You're going to wondering, how do I know that? Well, okay, so maybe I don't. The point is, John Campbell, you're a good man, and you've made a significant difference in a lot of people's lives, and I think it's time to recognize you for that. We want to say thank you. Just a little miscellaneous information, more background, and it certainly is important. Our parliamentarians have been appointed: Mal Wagner, Horst Deppner, sitting right over on my left here. They've been diligent in kind of reviewing everything with us, and if we need to have a consult with them, we'll take a pause and do that. Our tellers appointed for tonight: Ken Weeb, and Keith Ensko, and Shannon Bowler, who's in the room. She's appointed to be a Zoom teller for the online delegates. You got your package sent out to you, and if you took a look at that, page 5 of that is the business session agenda for the 2022 at AGM. And for that agenda that was circulated to be binding then, we need to have a motion to adopt that agenda as presented. So if I could call for a motion from the floor to adopt the agenda as presented, who would like to do that for me? It was moved by, say that again, Don Berquist, yeah. And seconded by, can you say your loud name good and loud and where you're from? Good, loud. Okay. Okay, and seconded by Peter. All in favor that we adopt the agenda as presented? Thank you. Okay, I don't have my bionic ears on tonight, so we have to say it loud enough for Shannon to hear. And we can go from there. See, the agenda has been adopted. Thank you. The previous year's minutes were sent out with the package as well. And you received that. These minutes begin on page 18, Appendix A of the report package. Are there any comments, questions, or corrections to be made on those minutes? Have you had a chance to review them? If not, I'm going to call for a motion to accept as distributed the 2021 annual general meeting minutes. And I'll call for someone to move that motion. Say it in good and loud and where you're from. Moved by Sidney Pelche. Seconded by Drew. That the minutes of the 2021 annual general meeting be accepted as distributed. All in favor, please show your hands on screen or raise your name tags in person. Thank you. Carried. So life happens, and you've had your report package for a while, and you've had a chance to review it, but you may not have had a chance to read yet as far as what your responsibilities are. So let me just briefly highlight, and I think it's so important. This evening, to participate in discussions, that's what your purpose is, and vote on items requiring decision. You know, as the moderator, and I think as any of the people in leadership here, what we'd like to hear when it comes to some of the reports as we go along is saying, help me understand. I didn't quite hear. What about this? Can you explain this a bit? Those are the kind of questions we're looking for. Then we know that we're all on board, and then we know that it's been well explained. If you don't understand something, we know there's others that probably wouldn't understand as well. So please, don't be afraid. Let's stand up and ask those questions. Number 2, report back to your congregation what happened at the AGM, including information on the budget support. And during the following year, you'll receive the minutes of the AGM and the regular email updates on events, news, so please share them with your congregation. And finally, you remain the delegate for the entire year until the next AGM. We're going to have a slide on the Board of Directors annual report. Please refer to your AGM reports in the delegate package. Rose Persky is the Board of Directors Chair, and she's asked Don Berquist to give any input on any questions you might have for that report. You all had a chance to take a look at that. Any questions? Comments? Think about that. If something comes up later, we're going to go on and continue on with the ministry reports. I'll call on George Lutzer, Executive Director.
Thank you again for taking time to work through the reports. I just want to quickly review what I went through yesterday evening in our opening keynote address and just highlight a few things from the Executive Director report. Again, the model that we are adopting as a regional team is to the role that we see is to model coach, and care. That is our role as a regional ministry team, and we want to offer that as and make it available as much as we possibly can. Our vision, which we talked a little bit about last night, was really to help our pastors thrive, our churches to flourish, and that we are better together. And again, we distilled that from our original vision, the vision that I inherited, and we just wanted to bring it home a little bit more. And again, if there's 6 words that you remember from our time together, is thriving pastors, flourishing churches, and that we are better together. We're working on 5 particular outcomes as a regional ministry team. The first one is to ensure that our pastors have regular opportunities and venues to engage in renewal and personal revival. We took some time to unpack that. Our sessions today were dedicated to that. Tomorrow is going to be a little bit more on that. Our second outcome is to build a relevant and effective leadership pipeline for emerging and current leaders. As it stands right now, we in our group have 5 leaders who are 61 years old and older who are still active in ministry in full or part-time capacity. We have 5 individuals who are in the fellows program. That's a 1-to-1 ratio. That means we're simply replacing our pastors who are retiring. And we really feel that we need to have at least a 2-to-1 ratio, if not a 3-to-1 ratio. For every one of our pastors who leaves and retires, we want to be replacing them with 2 people who are coming up. We don't just want to replace, we want to grow, we want to add. So building a relevant leadership pipeline is really important for us. We're going to make a lot of investments in our future. Our third outcome is to seek out and birth new initiatives. We believe that we can plant churches, vital, healthy churches, plant churches. We can come alongside that as a movement, but there's other ways that we can, in innovative ways, advance the kingdom of God through missional communities, through restarts. You heard a little bit about that this afternoon if you were in one of the workshops. So we do want to continually seek out where Jesus is at work around us and come alongside his work there and establish outposts of kingdom advancement wherever he's at work. Our fourth outcome is to continue to communicate a clear and compelling vision of our mission. And again, that is to see our pastors thrive, to see our churches flourish, and to work in a way where we are better together. And finally, our fifth outcome is to foster greater ownership and partnership with our pastors and churches. I just want to give you one example of that. And we're restarting the church in Southview, Medicine Hat. A key player in that restart has been the East Side Church of God in Swift Current. They're 2 hours away. They're the closest church to Medicine Hat. And they have effectively staffed the whole committee that is helping the church redevelop, that comes alongside of and supports and works alongside of Pastor Andrea Striefler there. It's partnerships like that that are going to really help us as we go into the future. And we want to continue to look at strategic partnerships with our churches, with our pastors, with our initiatives. We've restructured some of our events. We know that it's becoming ever more challenging for some churches to send their pastors to 3 regional events. So we've pared it down to 2. Our Equip event here is one of the key events that we want to continue to make investments in, make it a training time. So in one way, we're kind of going to be blending Theologue and what was called Leader Connect into our Equip session. And we're also going to be renaming our Ministry Leaders Retreat, our fall retreat for anyone who's on staff at a church, and we're calling it Refresh. You can note this date in your calendar, October 17th to 20th. We're adding a day, making it optional, but we're adding a day to that. And it's going to be a real great time of refreshment. We're working on some great speakers from the Edmonton-Calgary corridor who are going to come in and really help us in a time of refreshment, to be a part and to really catch our breath. We talked a little bit today, introduced some renewal culture, and we're going to be continuing to talk about that. And we heard Dr. Rob Reamer. He gave us a bit of an insight into growing a renewal culture. And tomorrow morning, we're going to look at a little bit more at what church renewal is. Dr. Ken McDonald here from Edmonton is going to be joining us. It's a keynote address you're not going to want to miss. Here's someone who's been living deeply into the church renewal. And he's going to unpack for us what this mentoring cohort system to help pastors engage in personal renewal and revival is really all about. And then to actually multiply that into their churches. Again, I just want to leave you with one slide, and that is that really our purpose is to see our pastors thrive, to see our churches flourish, and we are better together. Mr. Moderator, I'll entertain any questions.
Any questions at this time from George that you could address to George? Just one at a time, if you could. Thank you, George. And could I just step back a bit and say thank you to Rose for putting together that report for us as well. Not only does it take time out of your life to be involved with that Canadian Church of God board, but to be the chair of that board and then to prepare and present a report as well. We appreciate that. Thank you, Rose. We've had reports circulated to you from the Strategic Director's report from Tim Clark and the ministry summaries from the credentials by John Campbell. We had reports from missions from Michael Blackmere. Tim Clark again submitted a report as the Executive Director of Deer Valley Meadows and Ministry Council by Chris Mullins. Were there any questions? We have access to these people. If you have any questions, comments about their reports. Thank you to each of the presenters, each of the people that gave those reports for our consideration. We're going to get into some financial reports at this point. And as I was reviewing that and thinking about the financial reports, I got to tell you, as odd as it might seem to some of you, I really enjoy the book of Numbers in the Old Testament, honestly. What I like about that is precision. It never says there were quite a few or there were a lot. No, it says there were 46,500. Precision, attention to detail, preparation. But what I liked about the book of Numbers was when reading through it in the Message Bible, written by Eugene Peterson, I really appreciated his introduction. Could I read that for you? And it's just a brief passage of that. Eugene Peterson says, we need organizational help. When people live in a community, jobs have to be assigned, leaders appointed, inventories kept. Counting and list making and rosters are as much a part of being a community of God as prayer and instruction and justice. Accurate arithmetic is an aspect of becoming a people of God. So for the next few minutes, those of you who don't consider yourselves to be a numbers people, please don't let your mind check out. Stay with us. Let's give our attention to Randy Rossler and Mark Rothman as they talk to us about the book of Numbers, the Canadian Church of God Ministries. Randy, you have a report with some slides. You're gonna put those on? Okay. Okay. You got to see Randy's report online there? Okay.
There's a report up there.
Thank you.
This is a table format just to show you what's happened. So I'll just maybe highlight this a little bit. So the first part is loans receivable. So we give out a number of church loans to our churches. We have 3 out right now. So you can see what the balance of what they owed us at the end of 2020 was and what it was at the end of 21. That's the last column. And so the loans receivable that is owed to us went down by 133,000. That's just the work of the Financial Services Committee. They do have some investments that they manage, some GICs. They are sort of divesting a lot of the GICs, which is what we would normally, or we might tend to think are the safe investments, but they don't give you much return. They have some non-GIC investments, almost 3 million at the end of the previous year, 3.5 million at the end of 2021. So they increased in value by $610,000 during the year. This is their market value at those points in time. We have some bank accounts, and that increased slightly over the year. And we have some organizations and individuals that have money on deposit with us. So we had 107,000 at the end of 2020, and we're down to 46,000 at the end of 2021, which means some people withdrew their funds, which is their right to do so. So that's the work of the financial services. I will go on to the financial report unless you have questions about this slide. Thank you, George. You guys hearing me okay? Okay. Let's move on then, hearing none. So this is what I've done with my slides is I've taken the report that I think was sent out to you and I've highlighted certain numbers. And I'm just going to talk about those. I may have missed highlighting a couple I'm going to talk about, but that's, see if I got the right one here. That's the wrong one. Okay. I need oh, it's my notes. You don't have the one I'm looking for. I will find it here, just a second. I have it on my computer. Okay. So for the first slide, our bank account has gone down by 100,000. Our investments went up by 200,000. And I think I told you that we had our loans repaid by about 133,000. So basically that was no change if you look at those three areas over the last year. We've had two churches that were paying interest and principal all year long. In 2020, we had a few the churches all had a short period of time where they didn't have to pay principal back because of COVID hitting and their income dropped significantly. During 2021, we had one of our churches that did that for 7 months, and then they've been making principal and interest payments since August. They always made interest payments every month. I'm ready for the next slide. So we have deposits, funds that investors had on hand with us, and we pay interest on, and that went down 61,000. I said they had made some withdrawals. And that's part of what we owe other people. So that total that went down for what we owe is $94,000 down. Just going to change my screen a little bit. The next one is some of our funds and the medical health needs that were used. We used $7,200 to help pastors that had special needs during the year. And so that fund is for. We help pastors that have special needs that aren't covered by insurance that they would need help with. And that may involve some time at a counseling center or different ways of helping them. So we do that. The next slide. So our current year earnings, we're up about we're plus 71,000 in 2021. At the end of 2020, the current year for the year 2020 was minus 53. So we've had a better year than we had in 2020, is what that says. Next slide. This should be a graph slide. Yes. So blue is 2021 and red is 2020. You see that they haven't changed much. But what we have and what we own has gone up slightly, and what we owe has gone down slightly, which is a better pattern than the other way around. Okay. Next slide. So our general donations for the regional office was lower in 2021 by $43,000 and lower than budget. It was a COVID year, and a lot of what I'm going to say in this next little bit is COVID has impacted us greatly for that. DVM donations were up by almost 27,000, which was amazing, and that's operational donations. That is not capital donations. The grants went down by 46,000, but they were still higher than budget when you look at grants for DVM. The regional event income, it was up from 2020. We had hardly any regional events in 2020, but we were 50,000 below budget. So we only held 3 summer camps, and one was significantly lower than it usually is. In 2020, we had no summer camps. DVM rentals were up $99,000 from the year before, which is a good climb, but 270,000 below budget. So we're still not where we should be. The camp was allowed to open July 1st for bigger groups. So we had half a year we couldn't even rent the large groups. And that's a reason for that. Interest income was up by 88,000, and it was also over budget. Our investments did really well in 2021. And our total revenue from the year before was up by 143,000. Go to the next slide, please. So if you take the income and you just look at the different departments that we have, these are our traditional departments like the regional ministry, the camp ministry, and the financial services. 52% of our income comes from regional sources in 2021, 26% from DVM, and 22% from financial services. So, slide change. So now I'm going to turn a little bit. I'm going to take this out of here. Look at the screen so I can do it. I can explain to you what I'm seeing because I'm not seeing that on my screen. So this is how many churches gave at what level over the last 5 years. So the first level at the very far left is less than $1,000 that a church gave. We had 4 churches this year compared to 3 the last 2 years. So that number's gone up a bit. The churches that gave 1,000 to 5,000 for the year, and this is to everything that they gave to, that went up by 1. The next 2 categories from 5 to 10 and 10 to 20 stayed the same. And the churches that gave more, from 20 to 50, went down by 1 church, and the ones that gave over 50 went down by 1 church. So you can see we have about the same number of churches, but they kind of went to the left side, which is giving less than they were in the year before. Next screen, please. If you look at what those churches gave to, you can see the pattern of what's happening with our congregational giving. And a lot of this is due to COVID. I realize that. So at some point, we shouldn't be too alarmed, but the pattern shouldn't continue. So the general giving that churches give to our general fund, that's the lowest in 5 years. In 2020, we had 4 months of regular church support, and then the giving kind of dropped off a bit after that because COVID hit. Our foreign missions is the lowest in 5 years. The other one I'd mention is Christ's birthday offering has dropped, and the other, which mainly includes Deer Valley and a couple other things, but mainly Deer Valley, that has kind of stayed the same from the year before. Okay. And this is just giving from congregations, not from individuals. If you look at the total ministry giving by all our congregations, from 5 years ago, it was 460,000. Above that, we're down to 320,000 in 2021. So again, if the pattern continues, that would be an issue. One other slide that gives you the time frame from when I started in the office in 1996 was my first reporting year. You can see what's happened. We're actually lower than we were back then. The solid blue line is the actual numbers. The dashed line is sort of a trend that's going on. So it's a bit smoother of a line, but you can see sort of the pattern of what's happened. And I've kind of tried to update this for you every year. So I do this report every year just so you sort of have a consistency of what I'm reporting on, and you can sort of see a comparison that isn't number-based, it's picture-based. Okay, where are we at? Expenses. So this is where we spent our money on. Congregational services, which I believe is the third line, includes helping some of our congregations redevelop. So we spent our budget in this area. We supported 2 churches for 5 months at the rate of $25,000 a year. So they didn't get the $25,000 at the beginning of the year period. They got a monthly allotment every month for 5 months. Our regional staff is slightly higher than last year. So our staff cost went from 378 to 381, which is 1%. Compared to our budget, we were up 5%. We had 1 month where we had 2 positions active. Dave Van Roon was sort of on when Tim came on as regional staff in the month of August. So that month of August was an overlap month. If you look at DVM staff, and that's the last yellow line, they were higher than last year by 8%, but they were lower than budget by 18%. And part of the reason for that is when you have less rentals, you don't need as much staff. Plus, In 2021, Tim's staff salary budget was included in DVM, but he transitioned to regional ministry except for 10%, which the camp contributed back. So that was the reason why they were a lot lower. Okay, next slide. And again, this is a breakdown of the three departments. So you can see at the bottom line is the surplus or deficit. When people look at financial statements, they look at the bottom line. They look at that yellow line, and that's what they're looking at. So financial services helped us as an organization get through a year that was pretty tough. We didn't do terrible for deficits, and it was better than the year before, but they helped us come up. Next one. Is that the last one? Oh, this is just a summary of the total income, the total expense, and that surplus deficit line again. So any questions on the financial report?
Yeah, Don Berquist. Mark, it showed there that DVM was in the hole for 59,000. How did that get made up?
How'd that get made up?
Yeah.
Well, they did have some extra funds, but those have been used up, kind of thing. Like they had some extra money from the one-time gift from the oil company. And so that has helped to use that up, basically. That wasn't all of it in 1 year, but we had a worse year the year before. So between those 2 years, that pretty well used that up. Thanks for the question, Don. Any online chat? Any questions?
Thank you, Mark. We've received the ministry's reports, and now we've finished receiving the financial reports. I'm going to call for a motion to accept the reports as presented. If I could have someone move that to accept those reports as presented. Just call out your name and your church. Kevin Schneider was moved by Kevin Schneider. And seconded by Greg Clausen. It was moved and seconded that the reports be accepted as presented. Any further discussion, questions? All in favor, please raise your hands, and your green cards carried. I'm going to call on Tim Clark to review with us the quorum bylaws update and motion to change for 2023.
In many organizations, when you have somebody newer, you frosh them. So I believe that's what I'm doing up here somehow. So be gentle with me, please. I am presenting on behalf of the board of directors, of which there's a subcommittee on bylaws and legislation, and they have prepared this for the board of directors in its entirety to come to you. Mark Boffman and I were resources in the creation and kind of wording to help with it. So they've asked if I would walk us through this. I'm just going to be reading through the rationale, the proposed version, the motion, and with the whereas statements. So the rationale: there's a problem in achieving and maintaining quorum with the current practice of basing quorum on all ordained or licensed ministers and all certified lay delegates being the percentage drawn from. This does not take into consideration if they have registered or not for the meeting. We value representation and have proposed increasing the percentage required for quorum, but only of registered delegates. The current bylaws do not address what happens when quorum is not established or ceases during a business meeting. We decided to have a bylaw that is effective and allows for meetings to take place in an orderly manner. These changes pertain only to bylaw 5.3 addressing quorum. This is the rationale. The current version of bylaw 5.3. The quorum for the transaction of business at any annual or special meeting of the corporation shall consist of not less than 50% plus one of the total membership of the corporation. For special meetings, the meetings of the corporation are the delegates of record from the previous annual meeting. This list is maintained by the secretary. The proposed version. A quorum for the transaction of business at any annual or special meetings of the corporation shall consist of not less than 2/3 of the registered delegates. For special meetings, the members of the corporation are the delegates of record from the previous annual meeting. This list is maintained by the secretary. And here's the motion. I love whereas statements. Whereas quorum currently is determined by all ordained minister or all ordained and licensed ministers and all certified lay delegates, regardless of attendance at the meeting of the corporation. And whereas the current requirement of 50% plus one to establish quorum based on the previous criteria has made it challenging to achieve quorum, except when Shannon runs around and chases everyone down. And whereas there is a preference for a higher percentage to achieve quorum based on those registered for the meeting instead of those eligible to be at the meeting. And whereas it is common practice for regional organizations to base quorum on registered delegates. And whereas the current bylaw does not address if quorum is not achieved or ceases. Therefore, be it resolved, a quorum for the transaction of business at any annual or special meetings of the corporation shall consist of not less than 2/3 of the registered delegates. For special meetings, the members of the corporation are the delegates of record from the previous annual meeting. This list is maintained by the secretary. Point A. If quorum cannot be established, the meeting will be adjourned until the next duly called meeting of the corporation. If at any time during a meeting of the corporation, there ceases to be a quorum of voting delegates present, business then in progress must be suspended until there is a quorum present or until the meeting is adjourned. This was moved by Red Hildebrand and seconded by Jeff Peters as it was coming from committee.
So comments, questions? I look at that and realize there's a lot of work that went into that. If you're familiar with working on bylaws for any organization, that's a lot of work into that. So we need to thank that committee that did the work and the board of directors that put that forward for doing that. Makes good sense to everybody. We're going to get a chance to vote on this. It's going to be voted on ballot and it's going to be voted online. I'm sorry, there's somebody coming here to talk. Okay, I'll hold then. Thank you.
My friend Daryl Schultz has been coaching me through bylaws and structure and everything like that. So here's the question I have. Is there an assumption that there is a procedure to go along with this bylaw to determine registration?
That is part of the other bylaws that don't pertain to this motion, but yes.
Okay, good.
Yeah. Good question, Dave. Dave Van Roon, interim at Camrose Church of God and extraordinaire.
Dave Zimmerman from Bright Creek. What is the current requirements time for calling?
So the question online is, what is the current time for calling a meeting? That one I would have to refer to one of our board of directors, as that's outside of my purvey in this. And that would be, what is the time frame for a duly called meeting? It's in our bylaws, I do know that. Mark? Mark is going to pull up the bylaws and he will resource this. And several board of directors members just breathed a great sigh of relief with Mark coming up. I know our wording, the wording in Robert's rules is a duly called meeting, just for clarification for us. A duly called meeting of the corporation.
So that'd be section 5.7. Is that seen there?
Notice of meetings. Notice of meetings to members entitled to vote at the meeting shall be sent by mail, courier, or personal delivery between 21 and 60 days before the meeting. So 3 weeks to just about 2 months.
Shannon, would you ask Dave if that answers the question for clarification? Because we're dealing with them online. We want to go slow enough to make sure we're doing this properly. Again?
Yes.
Okay. 21 and 60 days is when a meeting is to be called, no less than 21.
Good questions. Further questions? Okay, I was saying we're going to get the vote on this by ballot or by using the online software. It's called Simply Voting. That'll be a part of the ballots that will be handed out. And you'll have access to that online toward the end of the meeting as well. Everybody's comfortable with that? Your feeling is well explained? Understand the reasoning for that?
Morgan, Church of God, if a congregation grows during the year and is eligible for an additional delegate, will that impact?
I would suggest that that question doesn't pertain to this motion and that would have to be addressed in how the church delegates are selected. So if you have more delegates, then yes, you can have more delegates if your church is growing. And according to this motion, it would be those registered. If he needs clarification, please. Okay. And that was Doug from Glamorgan.
Yes.
How long have I been at this job? It's like it's going slow right now. You all are so nice.
Okay, great. If you're feeling comfortable with that, everyone feeling comfortable, let's move on. Thank you, Tim, for presenting that. As well done. And again, thank you to the board, the subcommittee that went to all that work. And this has been ongoing for many years. We've always had that anxiety of meeting quorum and keeping the doors shut so we don't lose quorum. So it's a good way to resolve that. Thank you. I call on Mark again, then it's time for that 2022 budget presentation.
let me just get set here and then I'm going to ask George to come up and answer a question for me. And I'll let you stew a little bit on that one, George. You're going to answer a question for me. It's an easy question. The question is, you changed my job title sometime during this past year. Can you tell us what the new job title is? Director of Finance. Thank you, George. So when the federal minister of finance presents a budget, what does he do?
See your shoes,
He
man.
buys some shoes, right? Well, George did not buy me shoes. But I do want to say something in honor of my dad. My dad's name was, those of you who knew him, Cliff. He had a nickname. Do you know what the nickname was? I can't hear you, Ed. Spiffy Cliffy. He was also known to wear some pretty bright socks. So I do have a pair of socks that are my most spiffy socks.
Want a little music in the background here?
I thought you needed a little break from the business. Okay, we need some budget slides up here, or one, the first one anyway. You might have to flip through a couple of them. I'm not sure when they come, but I'm just waiting for the tech team to get that number. No, budget.
That's on the one.
There we
balance
go.
At the end, we're
Next
handing out
slide,
ballots.
Okay, let me take this microphone again.
It's actually 4 different ballots,
I'm going to turn around so I can see the screen.
but it's
And
on,
all I see back
but it's
there is
on
the
one
title of
ballot
the
on
page. That doesn't help me.
electronic one.
So let me go through this a little bit. General donation. So the yellow column is the numbers that we're voting on to approve. The green line is a subtotal of a total of the income. So we're not voting on that line really, and yet in a way we are. The last column is how much that number on that line represents of the total budget at the bottom. So if you look at the first line, it's 494,582, and you see 1.9 million at the bottom, that's 25.7% of 1.9 million. Okay. So a quarter of our income comes from general donations or grants for the regional office. I'll talk a little bit about the detail, what that number means. So the amount that we're expecting from churches is 300,000, which is the same as it was the year before. That has not changed. We've added an amount coming from DVM in this line to cover 10% of our assistant executive director's salary. That's not his title, that's what I'm using. And we've also budgeted some money to come out of our reserves over time to the tune of 36,000. So you see that number has gone from 447 to 494. That's about $47,000. 36 of that is coming out of reserve from a previous year. The next line is DVM, general donations and income. You see that number has gone down from the year before. So let me give you just a little history on one of the elements of that line. DVM gets, as many of you know, gets royalties from an oil well in Saskatchewan. In 2020, they received 15,000. We budgeted 35 that year. So we were way under what we were expecting. 2021, we received 34,000 and we only budgeted 20. And this year we budgeted 15. So we dropped it 5,000. At least we dropped it 15, but 5 of that dropped. I expect we'll get more of that than what we've budgeted this year. Leadership development. This is money that we're taking out of leadership development funds to spend on leadership development. So you'll see the 112,000 up there. 42,000 of that is to fund a temporary credentials development position. So we have one of our new staff members, that's helping that's where the money's coming from to pay for that temporary position. It's a year long at this point. I don't know how long it's going to be, but that's what it is for this year. New initiatives, we've increased that by 5,000, which isn't a lot of increase, but it's significant because it was 10, went up to 15. Congregational services, we have budgeted to support 3 churches for 25,000 a year. For the first 4 months, we've only supported 2 churches because the other one we haven't started supporting yet. That would probably happen sometime during the year. So we probably won't take all that money out of reserve to do that. Event income, you'll see that that line has gone from 104 to 127,000. We are expecting to run a full slate of events, and we've added 55 plus camp as another event. So that's why that one has gone up. DVM rentals and sales went from 485 down to 435, but the actual last year was 216. We are expecting to run a full slate of camps for the camp this year. Not just our own camps, but other rentals as well. Interest, we've raised based on what happened in 2021. We had interest of 364,000 and we budgeted 178 last year. We were up to 206 this year. I think that one kind of make sense to everybody. And I don't know, did miscellaneous went down a little bit. The next slide, please, for the expenses. Again, it's the yellow column that we're looking at as what we're voting on. New initiatives, which is the second line, went up $4,000. We're making a donation to Go Ministries of $4,000. That was a new item this year. Congregational services, again, this is the support. The other side was where we're taking it out of the funds onto our income statement. We're adding 15,000 for project support. And we've also added an item to track money that flows between us and Southview for Andreas's salary. He is, if you ask the government, he's our employee. He's sort of their employee, but we do the tax work for him. So we have him on our budget and we sort of track the transfers back and forth to cover that. The local church does pay his salary. We do give them assistance of the year of 25,000. Events is the same as income. We're running a full slate of events, so that should go up. I didn't mention missions or challenge on either side. They're staying about the same as they were, so I'm not going to make too much of a comment there. Office administration. We've had our building lease reduced, actually in 2020, but we budgeted a change. We needed the budget to change, so that budget reduction has come this year. The cost of our office in Cameron went down to about a third of what it was when we had 3 people working in the office. And as well, our office expenses are more digital now. We don't do as much mailing or printing. We do a lot more digital work. That reduces costs significantly as well. DVM staff. So you'll see that's gone from 352 to 304. That looks like a reduction, but it may actually increase a little bit based on if we're going to have more rentals, we're going to have more staff. And I think I'll leave it at that, but we probably will go above that in actual expense. Board of Directors, under their line, there was an amount that we supported the U.S. Church of God Ministries, Inc. To $5,000. We lowered that to $1,000 at this point. And financial services, we increased their interest expense, what they pay out in interest based on actual what's happened in the past for that. The other ones haven't changed a lot. I'm not going to make any comments about that unless you have a question. So we have presented a balanced budget. If we go to the next slide, before we go there, stay on this slide. you'll see a line that says staff, and it says 23.2%. We were asked the question in the office, why are staff getting a 23% increase in salary? Maybe you have asked that. Remember that 23% is not increase of the year from the year before. It's what percentage of the total budget that line represents. If we go to the next slide now, please. If you look at that number, that's the 466, and we break it down. In 2021, we had 273,000. In 2022, 340,000. We've added one new position for the year, about 40,000. We've had one person retire and another person added on. So that affected the salaries line. The pension line went up slightly. We standardized the pension rate that the ones that get pension get. The travel line, one of George's first questions to me when he was being considered, what's your travel budget? And George has been meeting with our churches, and Tim has as well, to meet with you to do that, and that they're able to do that means they have to spend a bit more on travel. So that number went up 5,000. Professional development went up $2,000. And employer costs, which is your CPP, EI, those type of things, and benefit plan contributions went up 5,000. So if you look at that increase from the slide before, let's go to the next slide, sorry. Let's go to the next slide. If you look at the 365 up to 446, why are we getting, not all of that is salary, but that is a fairly significant part of our budget. So I appreciate the question. I hope I was able to explain what that 23% means at the end. If you look at the bottom, we've presented a balanced budget. Any questions about the budget?
Based on anticipated further COVID issues as well.
So the question is the DVM, let's go back to the income slide, please. It's 3 screens before this. Thank you. So the DVM general donations income, is it based on
Anticipated further COVID issues.
anticipated further COVID issues? At this point, we're hoping for a full rental for the full year for DVM. So we're not anticipating as much COVID issues. They may still happen if we're locked down. I know our provincial government is reluctant to do that right now. Does that answer the question? Okay.
We'll wait a few more seconds here. So George was saying that Mark gave a 1-year notice and he was feeling a little anxious about that. So I think those of us that took a look at that presentation and the quality of that presentation should be feeling a little anxious. How are you going to replace that? Thank you, Mark, for doing that. Mel Wagner, and I'm gonna have a motion on this to accept that, to approve the ministry's budgets in just a minute. But I think Mel Wagner and Horst Deppner raised a good point in just a few minutes ago to say, let's just pause and go back and make sure everybody's clear here. We had a bylaw change and it was moved and seconded, and we're gonna give you a ballot toward the end of the meeting here to vote on that. And there's gonna be another ballot to accept the 2022 budget. So you're gonna be able to vote on that in person on the budget. And then there's going to be another budget, another sheet that's going to say ratifying members of the board of directors. You got a chance to vote on that, and also ratify the 2023 moderator and backup moderator. So that'll be coming. So when we take a look at that and said, okay, we have to modify things a bit for this hybrid meeting. That's why we're doing it. It's organized, believe it or not. But actually, referring back to Robert's rules, you know, it does say that saying, hey, By definition, parliamentary procedure means, in addition to utilizing the authority of Robert's rules, we can adopt written rules. We can be flexible and confirm, add to, or deviate from the authority. So we have flexibility as a body. So we took that flexibility and said, here's what's going to work. Here's going to work well in this particular situation. Here's what's going to be effective and efficient. So you will be getting a chance to vote on these by physical ballot. Those online will have one ballot to vote on using simply voting authority. So that being said, thank you for the clarification. Does that make it perfectly clear where we're at or make it worse? Better. Yeah. So that takes us back to saying if there's no further questions, I'm going to call for a motion to approve the 2022 ministry's budget as presented. And I'm going to ask for someone to move that motion. And seconder. Shane, did I see you move your hand there? Shane Brothers. It's been moved and seconded that the 2022 ministry budget be accepted as presented. We'll get a chance to vote on that. Okay, the nominations committee has put through some names for voting on the new board of directors. Do we have a slide on that? Chad Brundage is up for the second term. Youth and family pastor of Paradise Valley Church of God for the past 15 years. Chad's completing his present term on the board of directors and is willing to serve for an additional term till 2025. Thank you, Chad. Reg Hildebrand serves as chair of the leadership team at Wetaskiwin Church of God. Reg has served in the board of directors for the past 3 years. He's willing again to serve for an additional term to 2025. Thank you, Reg. We welcome back Shane Brothers, lead pastor at Crosspoint Community Church in Winnipeg. Shane has served in full-time ministry with our Church of God in our region for the past 27 years. Him and his wife were our children when they went through Gardner College. I'm just saying, that's my boy. And Diane Sherman attends the Holyrood Community Church and served as treasurer since 2004. Recently retired. Dan also volunteers for the Pregnancy Care Center. These are the board of directors that will have an opportunity to vote and ratify in just a few minutes. They'll be ratified with use of ballot. Those in person again, and those online will have a chance to use the simply voting. Next slide there. We're going to go on to vote for the 2023 AGM moderator and backup. I'm retired, work harder than ever, and involved with local Church of God in Camrose. My bionic ears aren't on. Just notice the eyes. Actually, interesting you should ask. It's been highly modified. Did that come from John Campbell? Did he ask you to say that? Because I got more to say about John. Just a minute. Barry Sherman, former telecommunications manager with TELUS and now retired as a lay leader at the Holyrood Community Church of God Church in Edmonton. Sorry, he would be the alternate. You think he's offered to be alternate, and you wouldn't think that'd be much. That's a big deal. When I come to see Barry today, he shakes my hand, but what he does is he's kind of holds it. He's checking my pulse because he's saying, this is a last minute thing. And he says you never see Barry as being that close, but he put his hand on, I think he's checking my temperature as well. So to be asked to be moderator at the last minute, even within the last week, I think that's quite a challenge. And in fairness to him, what it said to me, in the future, we'll be including Barry as we prepare for this. So in the area of having a pandemic, that'd be good planning. So good point, Barry. And be careful on your handshake in the future, if you would, please. So a good man to back us up. Thank you, Barry. And again, you'll have the option to vote on that by ballot. So let's go ahead. I think we're at the point, if there's no other comments, questions, we're at the point where we're ready to start voting on the ballots. We're going to be handing those out in person and simply voting online. Again, we're going to be voting for the quorum issue, board of directors, moderator and alternate moderator, and the budget. So I'll call for the voting on ballot. And I think we're starting to pass them on the back there. Yeah, that'd be helpful, I think, if you're a delegate, you're going to vote, raise your hand, and you'll get that voting package. A few more over here. All voting delegates have the ballots.
To the end when you're done.
All right, when you've marked your ballots, if you could pass them to the end, and they can pick them up at the end there. Thank you, Keith, and thank you, Ken, for being willing to work with us on this. I'm going to ignore that comment. Okay, I think we've all done that. I think we're ready for video presentations. George, I'll call you up there.
We want to take this time to get you up to speed on what's happening overseas. But before we do, I just want to say a special thank you for all those who are working really hard behind the scenes. Ryan Kafer from Grace Point doing sound. Thank you so much for doing that. Right on. Horst was making sure that we had great sound online. And then we also have Joel, Hildebrand, and Maddie working really hard back in the booth back there. Thank you guys. Really appreciate it. just invite you to pay attention to a video that we've put together to keep you up to speed in terms of what's going on with the missionaries that we support overseas. Have a look at the screens.
Hey there, we are Nate and Stacy County, and we serve as the regional coordinators for Europe and Middle East, sent here by Global Strategy, and it's coming up on a year, it'll be a year in June since we've taken over this role from Patrick and Jamie Optical. Many of you know, they served in this role for the last 2 years, and we're so grateful and thankful for the hard, diligent work that they have done in establishing a new paradigm, a new way of doing missions, and creating this three worlds team.
So we are located in Madrid, Spain. We moved here a little over a year ago with our 4 daughters. We also have an adult son who's married and lives back in the US, but our 4 daughters are here with us. And although we live in Madrid, we actually serve regionally.
So there are 14 countries where we have a Church of God presence, and we work within those 14 countries in different ways, depending on the relationships and the invitations that are given to us. But through that, there's kind of areas that we focus on. Creating interconnectivity amongst the congregations. Many of these churches, depending on the geographic locations, speak different languages, different cultural contexts. Some are in a more traditional environment, others are in more secular, post-Christian contexts. And so helping these churches to process and to think and to connect with one another is a priority. Engaging young people, empowering young leaders in these local congregations, and kind of walking alongside these leaders in churches to help them empower their young people is a priority for our team. And then lastly, it's, one of the missions, or the mission of Global Strategy, is to walk alongside the local church globally. And our last kind of area of focus is supporting leaders of the church. And so that's what we want to do. We want to walk alongside these local church leaders and helping them process and contextualize and encourage in whatever way we can to be able to do that, so that they are completing the mission that God has for them in their local church. And we're trying to do that, again, through coming out of COVID, where a lot of churches had to close their doors and move to online. And some of them just went completely offline and could only communicate with one another in messaging groups. And then also with what's happening in Ukraine, we're trying to identify how can we continue to walk alongside the church, especially for the church in Ukraine during these hard and difficult times. And so as new regional coordinators, we have a lot happening in our region, but we're very hopeful. We know that God is still in control, and we want to see his church become the hands and feet of Jesus.
We are so thankful for partners like you and the ability to walk alongside our leaders and our missionaries here throughout the region as you walk alongside us in partnership. So thank you so much.
Thank you.
Hafa Day and greetings from the beautiful Tangisin Beach on Guam. I just stepped off the plane yesterday to join Gary here because the borders to Yap are closed and we can't fly in to be with our school there. Gary has been working with the Touchpoint Church of God here on Guam.
Gwen and I have over 40 years of full-time ministry, 37 years of that here in Micronesia, and we've been feeling the need to step back and to retire. So as of June 30th of this year, we're going to retire from Global Strategies. But the local church here on Touchpoint has identified a young man that is called into full-time ministry as a pastor, and they've asked me to train him. And so we've committed the next 2 years to being here to see the fulfillment of that. The church has been very gracious and given me time to be able to go to Yap since there isn't a replacement for us, and to be able to help out from time to time as the need requires, and also to travel home to visit with family as needed. It's important for us to find somebody to take our place on Yap. It doesn't have to be somebody that has a whole lot of school experience, but somebody that is quite competent in working with people. Yap, as you may know, is a caste society, and it's the only one in this whole region that is like that. But It doesn't matter whether we put a high, low, or middle caste person in as the administrator or principal of the school. There's cultural norms that come into play that would make it difficult for the school to succeed the way that it should. And so we are looking for somebody outside the caste system that would be able to step in and to help. So we're asking for your prayers that we would be able to identify such a person or a family that would have an interest and a love for the kids and serving cross-culturally.
And for the past 3 or 4 years, we've actually approached different people. We've had recommendations from some of you and approached different ones, but after praying about it, everybody we have asked has said they did not feel God calling them in that direction. But we believe that God has somebody in mind, and there is so much ministry opportunity yet to be fulfilled on YAP. So if you would consider faithfully praying for somebody to fill this need, we would deeply appreciate it. And I know the people of YAP would too.
We're looking forward to sometime in the future to be able to join you for some of these meetings. We anticipate being able to travel while we're still youngish and in good health. So God bless you and hope to see you soon.
And have a wonderful meeting.
Bye-bye.
We're excited to be able to greet you once again from our part of the world here in East Africa and to bring you an update. We have been experiencing renewal coming out of COVID and being able to once again re-engage and start up our programs. The schools are back in session, the churches are back in, and all of our different various programs, including work camps.
The support that they give, both in the development that they provide and also the affirmation of the work that they see and the encouragement that they give, as well as just building on new relationships. When we get work groups, new people come. We get added sponsorship people for the programs, and we get to once again engage in what's going on in North America. We really believe that Matthew 28 is alive and well. And if you come to see what's going on in Africa, all of Africa is in some form of renewal. The opportunities within the church, the opportunities to engage with people. Congo's just opened up for East Africa. We've got South Sudan, leave alone Uganda, which is a third the size of Alberta and got a larger population of all of Canada. We can move, we can see, we can engage. We've got TE that's once again started to be operative, and we've got leadership focus, which we call core discipleship. So we've got our first 13 babies that are in that process. This will allow the church in Africa to be speaking into the future of the Church of God through ordination, pastors that are ordained or go through the process of ordination, similar to what's going on in North America. This is a big deal for us. So renewal, we got deep roots, and we encourage you to come and see what you're part of. How can you fully have a relationship if you're not engaged in that relationship? So part of the renewal we challenge you with is to be coming to see what's going on in mission fields that you're connected with every year, at least once a year.
Other highlights I want to mention, our first General Assembly in so many years in January. And we have now new leadership here in Uganda. So are very thankful and excited that this was allowed to happen. Over 500 pastors were in attendance. And so there's a fresh spirit of excitement and anticipation of what this will bring. Another highlight for us is that our daughter has joined Jessie here in teaching at Heritage. She's the HR actually, and our 3 grandchildren are here. And so it adds a whole new dimension to being here in missions abroad. I want to also mention that FARA has been certified as a charity, thinking of sponsorship through the FARA program. We do all of the countries, Southern Sudan, Congo, Uganda. So please look into these exciting possibilities.
We challenge you, the statements that we make about the value of relationships by coming and seeing what you've been engaged with and what endless possibilities there are here in Uganda. Uganda is about a third the size of Alberta, and it's got a larger population than all of Canada. And Uganda is just one of the countries that you, through us, are partner with. We think of Southern Sudan, we think of Congo. These are areas that we can engage in together.
And we want to mention there's open possibilities of new engagement with missions and projects. So please look into it.
We look forward to seeing you this side.
God bless.
God bless.
14 because they're about halfway done the count.
Oh, hey. Okay.
We're just getting Daryl prepared for a stand-up routine because the vote is about halfway through. So, what would you?
Okay. That's it? Could play it again.
You want to have us run? Actually, you know, we do have a video from this morning we didn't play. Okay, just one thing.
Yeah. One more video to come.
Yeah, thanks, Ryan. We need a couple more minutes because the voting has not come to its conclusion. We're going to show another video that we were hoping to show this morning. I believe that it's from the Langfords, from the UK. Is it Zach and Audrey Langford? Yeah, I think it's that one. They actually are serving in the second poorest county in all of the UK. And they are being very significant difference makers there. I got to meet them a number of years ago when we had one of our 3 World Roundtables in Liverpool. They're just outside of Liverpool. It's a very tough area that they're a part of, but they're doing some pretty great work. So have a look at this video.
Hello to our friends and ministry partners in Western Canada. I'm so thrilled to bring this update to you from inside Egan Road Church in Birkenhead. After 20 months of being in the US because of COVID restrictions and the loss of several of our family members, we're thrilled to be back here in the place that we love and minister in Birkenhead, England. We returned in January and almost immediately jumped right back into ministry. It's incredible to see the things that have been going on and things that we're able to participate in. Since restarting after COVID, our kids club has had about 40 different kids on average and 18 kids per week come through the doors, which is just incredible. Since restarting our tots group, we've had 65 different families. On average, we have 12 families per session. We had to move to 2 days a week for our tots sessions. And over those 2 sessions, we see about 23 to 27 children each week. It's an incredible. Pray for our volunteers and everybody engaged in that. We've also made a connection with St. James Center, which is a nonprofit organization here in the neighborhood over the past few weeks, and are working alongside them to bring more community events and activities in the area. We've had children's and babies buy, swap, and sell. We have those every second Sunday, or every second Wednesday of the month. And we're excited to be able to partner in that way to provide a safe place for people to come in and buy and sell and swap all of their children's clothes and toys and those types of things. One of the big goals that we had was for the church to really become self-sustaining, self-sufficient, and be able to really pay for and provide for all of these different things that we're engaged in. And one of those ways we're able to do that is rent the facility out. And so we've been renting this facility out for birthdays for quite some time. And since we reopened, we've had 11 birthdays. We also had a wonderful dedication celebration for one of our tots. And so far, from now until the next couple months, we have 9 more booked, and people are inquiring every day to connect with us. We have loads of things going on, different community events, and that's our point, is to become an engagement point, an engagement place for people of the neighborhood to connect, feel safe, and ultimately to find a relationship with Jesus and to come into that relationship and to come into his kingdom. So we thank you for your partnership, your continued partnership over these years, and we look forward to bringing you updates in the future. God bless.
Since we have a few more minutes, let me just give you a bit of background as to why they're reaching so many children. The conditions in the second poorest county in all of the UK are so bad, and the prospects are so terrible for some of these young kids, that what they do is they start having babies when they're 14, 15 years old, so that they get government support. So in response to that, they show up and they're like, well, we're going to help take care of you and help try to move you beyond this. And that's why they always talk about so many children. It's because it's the only way out for some of these folks. It's sad. It's really sad. And they are really right in the middle of it. And I commend them for jumping right on in a really difficult situation. And they are really doing the best that they possibly can. We've got one really great story that we feel we need to share with you. It's a very important development as it pertains to our camp. We have seen so many God sightings in our work these last 2 years. And I want to update you, or Tim's going to update you on the most recent one. And this is pretty powerful stuff. This is a script we can't write. This is simply God at work, and we just have to give him the glory on this one.
So one thing I did not know after 27 years of vocational ministry is how hard it is to hire a food services manager or cook at any remote-based place such as Deer Valley Meadows. And so Joel and I, and with the steering committee and guidance, we really felt this past year we needed to make a shift in the kitchen. It was not where we needed to be, and it was actually digressing. And so we made the hard decision to let our cook go. And it should be hard anytime you terminate a position. And we, so we posted, we were looking, and we had one candidate. And, you know, they were good. They were better than what we had. They weren't really where our deep heart of where we wanted to go, but we didn't even wish for the deep heart stuff. You know, sometimes you're afraid to ask God to move a mountain. You just want like something more manageable, and shame on us. And so in the process, we were moving along. We were in the 11th hour. We were going to hire this person. In the background check, it made it so that we were not able to hire the person. And when you decide that, and the spring is coming, and we finally get to open, as you saw Mark's discussion, there was nobody else on our list, but we couldn't hire the candidate we had. And so me in my great wisdom, I decided to get stressed out of my mind, not being able to sleep. And I encouraged Joel in his youthfulness and learning to be a leader to do the same thing. Worry, stress, you know, those kind of things, lose sleep, can't eat properly. And so it was a Friday night, middle of the night, I'm up and I'm pretty stressed about this, saying, God, what are we going to do? I really don't want to have to go in and run the kitchen for the summer. And God gave me a name. And really, I figure if David can beat on God's chest and ask him for help, God gave me a name. And then again, in my deep seeking of God, I didn't like that name. I thought it was a stupid name because I didn't think they were available. And I said, what do you know, God? And so God said, well, what do you know? I'm going to keep you up all night until you decide to agree with me. And so we did that little wrestle. And then by early morning, I was okay. I'll make contact with these people. And I worked with them about 25 years ago, and I've had contact with them over the years. But last time I heard, they were out in Ontario doing some transitional ministry in churches. So I connected with them, and yes, they were doing transitional ministry. His term, the husband's term, is wrapping up at the end of June. And when I knew her, she was a 5-star or a Red Seal chef working for the government. Many of you might have known them as people who ran Careth Creek, Jerry and Renee Ritzkus. And Renee was the name that God put on my heart. Over the course of a week of them leaning in and me leaning in and Joel and I and praying over this and discerning together, she came out for a visit. And the best way I can describe it, and I've said this to several people, it was like I was standing on holy ground. You know, when a bush is burning and it's not really burning, or when the waters recede and the land is dry, or the promised land is there, and it felt surreal. Because everything, as she came onto our property and she looked around the place, everything that was in her heart were the things that we dreamed of and had not asked God for. The mountain. And then I was with her for the day, and then I left her with Joel and Simeon, and that was the sales pitch because they are so awesome. And she was like, I love these guys. And so Jerry and Renee are coming to be part of our team with the Church of God, and it will probably end up being a little bit bigger than a food services manager. They have dreams of ministry centers and potentially church planning and pulpit supply and interim stuff, who knows? But this is the beginning point of a journey. And her dream is, like, she'll be a head cook, and she's insane. So if you haven't registered for family camp, come for the food, come for Jesus and the food, and and then the rest is bonus. She's going to raise the whole level to a modern kitchen, to healthy food, to good food, to understanding that when we feed someone physically, it shows our love for them. And she's going to help us develop systems, and her heart is to mentor and develop young leaders as well within that. So I was pretty humbled. I was pretty humbled. And on Monday night at 9:30, whenever it was, I had a conversation with them, and what they were saying, I just said yes. And I was waiting to see if they'd say yes. And at the end of the day, how do you say no when God is in something? So this is a blessing to our family, to our ministry center, that is Deer Valley. And it's God's graciousness of preparing the way, even when we're like too afraid to even ask for it because it's so wonderful. So that is an answer to prayer, and I give testimony to God's good and faithfulness. And the cards are here, and that is good. So,
great, thank you. Well, thanks for filling in. I think time-wise, I think we got time for one more good news story. And recently, well, I'm actually involved with the Kids Campus Daycare Society on their board, secretary treasurer, and recently been asked to do a summary for that because the local church is looking at supporting that Kids Campus. So I put together a summary. Let me just take a couple minutes of your time for one more good news story. What good came out of Gardner closing down? What's left over with that, with some of that benefit? How many here had ties to Gardner College? Take a look around, big deal. But here's what happened. Kids Campus was established in 2009 through Gardner College in Camrose, partly to ensure practicum placement for students in its early childhood development program. Students registered in the early child development program gained a work experience by working at Kids Campus, which was organized as a faith-based learning environment for children. Kids Campus Daycare Society continues as a faith-based that is registered charity in 2014, a registered society in 2014, a registered charity in 2017 in the province of Alberta. It's licensed as an early learning and childhood care center that goes beyond the Alberta licensing standards to provide an elevated level of learning and care. Kids Campus supports learning through play and creates learning experiences for children based on their interests following an emergent curriculum. It's worked with MacEwan University and Mount Royal University as pedagogical partners to develop practices to explore the implementation of play, participate, and possibilities, an early learning and child care curriculum framework for Alberta. Attention is focused on helping each child reach their full potential. Programs are child-focused, address all forms of development, social, physical, intellectual, creative, emotional, spiritual, moral growth. Play is essential in learning and development. The early learning years function as a foundation for development of responsible citizens. Kids Campus serves approximately 160 children per month. This includes drop-in, part-time, full-time, with over 125 children on a wait list. Kids Campus serves over 125 families with 35 staff and a budget of over $1.6 million last year. The enrollment at Kids Campus cannot be high as it was because of the pandemic related to the Alberta COVID protocols changes. Teamwork is necessary when dealing with children and carried out by knowledgeable, committed staff. Many of the staff at Kids Campus have level 2 or level 3 early childhood educator certificates. It's a high ratio of level 2 and level 3, higher than other centers in Alberta or Camrose. I'll skip a little bit. Up in 2016, Sandy Mize was the director of Kids Campus. You know Sandy Mize. She poured her heart and soul into that place, into the energies, put her energies into the staff and children. Suzanne Dumont at present is a program director since 2016. And she's distinguished herself in the Alberta Ministries Children's Services among colleagues in her profession. The staff at Kids Campus distinguished herself among the children and the members of the board. She provides the board with a report of their bi-monthly meetings, is available at their time to keep the board informed. Her skilled and steady leadership has been a significant difference in the center during COVID pandemic. The program currently provides care for reduced rate for 2 refugee families, as well as respite family care, space provided for facilitate children's speech services. Kids Campus accepts children turned away from other centers and provides additional support for children with special needs up to age 12, including celiac diets, nonverbal autism, and tube feeding, all based on parents' needs. In the past, care and supports provided for 23 learning together families, some of which are teen moms. It's collaborated with Memory Lane, allowing for children to participate in seniors program. You ready? Still more to go. That's what happens when the right people step forward, the right programming always set in motion. The Kids Campus, diversity is respected and valued and encouraged, and diverse staff and children come from South Korea, China, Philippines, Nepal, Egypt, USA. Referrals are provided for providing emergency care and clothing, furniture, provides prioritized care for vulnerable families, supports them through priority placements, extended hours of care up until 10:30 p.m. at evenings. Lower fees, provision for resources, activities, staff ratio enhancements, allows for supporting and inclusion and diversity. Collaborates, provide 50% discount on cab services to those people that are associated as well. It's supported through daycare fees, Alberta government subsidies and grants, donations, through support from the community foundations and the Rotary Club. It has 7 board members made up of 2 members who have early childhood training, 3 local businessmen, a chartered professional accountant, and a parent advisor. Has exceptional program management software and accounting services, with the board receiving bi-monthly comparative income statements, comparative balance sheets, and a statement of cash flows from a CPA. Let the little children come to us. Don't stop them. Such is the kingdom. Congratulations for those who have tied a gardener. Good news. That was good news. Another good story. Thanks for all the good news stories. The other good news is the bylaws passed 47 out of 47 with 1 abstaining. All the others were 100%, and the budget as well. Well, the budget passed with 45 yes. So congratulations. It's an all go. Congratulations to Chad Brundage, Red Schilderbrand, Shane Brothers, and Diane Sherman. Welcome back, and welcome back to the board. Congratulations to Barry Sherman. You get to stand by on edge again. I'm going to call for a motion to destroy the results of the paper and electronic AGM ballots. If I could have a show of hands. After that, call for a motion on that. It's moved by, sorry, I missed that. I'm just calling for a motion at this point. Could I have somebody move that motion to destroy the ballots? Nathan Weed moved. Seconded. All in favor? Carried. Say again. Online is carried as well. And a motion to close the 2022 AGM by a show of hands. We'll have a motion moved by Keith. Seconded by, moved and seconded that we adjourn the 2022 AGM of Canadian Church of God Ministries. All in favor? Carried. Thank you. Carried online. George, can I have you come? And
Would you join me in expressing our appreciation to Daryl for doing such a good job?
Thank you.
I think Daryl has really grown to like us. It's a lot of work putting this together, and there's really other things he could be doing, like flying his plane or riding in his combine. But he hangs out with us, and we're the richer for it. So Daryl, thank you so much.
Yeah,
it's
you're
really,
welcome.
really great to work.
Glad to
with
be
you.
here. Very honored to be a part of this.
Yeah, it's wonderful to be able to work with you. I'd invite you to please stand as we close our time together. Father God, we are so grateful that we can be a part of what you're doing. We are grateful for the bond of unity that we have in you, and that we can share this journey together. I pray your blessing upon all those who invest so much in such an important ministry as this. Father, we are grateful. We're grateful for the family that we can have, that you are continuing to add new members, that you are continuing to add great leaders, and we are just so honored to be a part of this. We want to dedicate our future to you, and we pray that you would give us eyes to see where you're at work, courageous hearts and hands to join you in what you're doing, and we really pray that we would advance the kingdom with you. We love you. We appreciate you. We entrust ourselves into your care, and we pray that the plans that we have laid would come to fruition, that you would do more than we can ask or imagine, that you would continue to surprise us with your goodness. And again, we just want to tell you we love you, and we're honored, and we're so deeply grateful to be part of what you're doing in this world. Amen. Amen. Have a great evening, everyone. Want to remind you to be here at 9 a.m. for coffee tomorrow. We've got a great session at 9:30. God bless you as you go.
Hey, good to work with you, Tim. Thank you. Oh.